Good evening and welcome to Be Read, presented by A Likely Story Bookstore and Carroll County Public Library. Thank you very much for joining us tonight. We're very excited to have Laurell Hamilton, one of the leading writers of paranormal fiction, with us tonight. She is the author of the #1 New York Times bestselling Anita Blake Vampire Hunter series and the Merry Gentry Fey Detective series. With more than 40 novels published and 20 million books sold, Laurell continues to create groundbreaking fiction inspired by her lifelong love of monster movies, ghost stories, mythology, folklore, and other things that go bump in the night. She lives in St. Louis with her family. In her free time, Laurell trains in Filipino martial arts with a specialization in blade work. Now, for the first time in 20 years, Laurell launches a brand new series with A Terrible Fall of Angels. This is the first book in the Zaniel Havelock series, and we are so excited to have Laurell here with us tonight to talk about this. Hi, Laurell.
Hi, Debbie. I'm happy to be here to talk with everybody tonight. 20 years. I didn't realize it had been so long.
Oh, really?
No, I didn't realize that when I started the Merry Gentry series, it had been 20 years. I did not realize that.
And it's been so long that you've been doing it, yet it seems so fresh every time you have a new book come out. And this is no exception. This was fabulous. Very different for you? Did you feel it was different for you?
People have been saying it's very different for me, and it doesn't feel different to me. I'm still doing a mystery. I'm still having a main character that is a private detective or policeman, and it is modern world with supernatural being a given. So that's all in my wheelhouse. So yes, first time for a male protagonist. That's very different.
Yes. Yeah.
And he is also he's married when the series starts,
which is also very different for you.
It is.
One of the things, since you started with your mystery, we actually do have several questions that's already come through, and I want to let everybody know, please feel free to type any questions in the chat comments. We will get to them as soon as we can. We'll be happy to discuss anything about the new book. Remember, you can order it at A Likely Story Bookstore, and we will pop up the website where you can get it online, or you can call the store. And we have signed book plates from Laurell to put in there for you as well. We do have a question, and this one comes from Beatrice, and she is asking, how would you classify your writing style? You had said mysteries, but she's asking, is it horror? Is it romance? Is it mystery or erotica? How do you personally categorize?
I actually say that I write paranormal thrillers. Okay. Because I say thrillers because there is it depends on which book it is. Some books have higher horror content. Some have more of a relationship romance content. Some don't. And so I say thriller to let people know the gamut that I have. And if you say paranormal, a lot of times people just assume that it's paranormal romance, and that's not. There's romance in there, but because relationships are important to my characters, but that is not all the books are. And I think if that's what you come to my books for, you're going to be going, wait. What am I reading here? Right. So I say I write paranormal thrillers, or that's the closest I've been able to come to what I do.
I think that's a very good, accurate genre that's where we put you in our store as well. So I would agree with that as well. And you mentioned you have your first time writing your Xander, who is a male protagonist, which is very different. How was that?
Zaniel, I got a little hung up on the fact that he was male, and I started freaking out, I admit, because people complain that male writers writing women get it wrong. So I thought, well, shoes on the other foot, I better step up my game. So I spent several years while I was beginning to toy with how I was going to do it, talking to my long-suffering husband about these questions, and every close male friend, anybody close to me, and I would just out of the blue, call them up, they got used to it, and go, okay, how's this work? Or how would be this different? And I finally realized that I'd made the classic mistake of getting hung up on the differences and not just realizing that Zaniel was a character and a person first and everything else second. It's like back in the days when I started, people said, oh, you write vampire books. I said, no, I write books where my characters happen to be vampires, but they have to be people first. If you ever start with what they are first and not that they're people first, you end up with a caricature. You just don't do as good a job.
And with doing that, we have several people asking, this is one particular from Stacy. She's asking, since you write many characters and books almost simultaneously, how do you determine who to write? Do they talk to you at the same time? Also, do you ever start a character and see that they do not belong in the book? And she's evidently a writer because she says, I'm having a problem with that right now.
If you're talking about a main character, I find that if I get my main character's voice solid, that the other cast comes and coalesces around. You get good characters, secondary characters that come. But your main voice, especially if it's a first-person narration like I prefer to write, you have to get that main voice correct. And if you don't, I actually know that I've got it right when the secondary cast comes along. If you mean that you're having trouble with a minor character, then either take them out or just open a new file and sit there and talk to the character. Do almost stream of conscious writing. Say, why aren't you talking to me? What's wrong? What do you want that I have not given you? Or what am I listening to? I know that Zaniel came to me male. I really didn't expect that. And he chose to be tall. And I went, okay, all right. And I find that once I didn't fight him, I've learned my lesson. Jean-Claude, when he first came to me, I wanted him to be Spanish because I spoke Spanish at that time. Please do not speak Spanish to me now. It's been 30 years. I spoke and read Spanish when I was trying to create the character. I did not know French, and he insisted he wanted to be French, and I argued with him for days and days and days. And finally, when I got out of his way and said, all right, fine, be French, he was Jean-Claude. He was himself. He came with the clothes and the attitude and everything, and I got out of my way and let him be who he wanted to be. So sometimes the character just wants you to get out of their way, and they know who they are. You have to let them be who they are. Other times, some characters don't belong in a book. Sometimes make an outtake folder. That's what I do per book. Don't delete it. If it's your first draft, especially if it's your first book, don't delete it. Let me say that again. Please, please, please don't delete it. Make an outtakes folder, just like an outtake for a movie reel. And open another folder and then just frame, do the little highlights, take it, cut it, and paste it over there. Leave lines between the outtakes because otherwise you're going to, and I've learned this the hard way, you're just going to leave this mass of writing and go, why did I save this? So leave spaces between so you know each piece is separate. And then when the book is finished in first draft, then if you still feel like you need that character, he or she is there waiting for you. And you didn't delete that character and have to start over. I've done that before. In first draft, don't delete anything. At very least, take it and put in an outtakes folder because otherwise, I've done this too many times over the years. I will go, I needed that character. I needed that scene. Damn it.
Do you ever find that you've done that? You've taken, okay, I'm not going to use this. I've gone on, I've moved on. And in another book pops up and you're like, oh, that character would work really well in here. Does that ever happen to you?
No.
No? Okay, good.
Actually, no. I've had no.
Okay.
And I think for me, though, it's because the main character in a series, their voice being strong collects their characters to them, and each main character is so different.
Okay. We have, this is from Alyssa, and Alyssa would like to know what prompted you to write this book? What was your inspiration in this book?
I was not reading about angels, watching angels or anything, but out of the blue, the first line of the book came to me. I wrote it on a sticky note and I put it on my office wall along with all the other sticky notes that I don't know where they go. I have sticky notes per series, and then I have the sticky note wall that I don't know what they're for. And I thought it was a short story. I really did. But it was such a great first line. I thought, oh. So I wrote it down. And let me just say, guys, write it down. No matter how great the line, great the inspiration, great that moment. And you're going, oh, I'll remember that. No, you won't. You won't. You have to write it down to keep it. So I wrote it, put it on a sticky note, and I just left it there and thought, oh, it's a short story. I'll get back to it. There'll be another idea. They'll rub up against each other and make sparks. And then I can't remember how long from that to this, to 2014. 2014, finally thought, oh, I'll give it a try. I was debating on whether I was going to do the next Merry or whether this was ready. So I sat down and I thought it was a short story. I thought I'll just that'll be a creative, the creative's break between Anita and Merry. I almost finished the first chapter and went, oh my God, it's a book. It's a series book. And I was actively writing Anita and Merry. I said, I can't do 3 series at once. Can I? I don't think I can. So I put it away in a folder and let it set. And wrote A Shiver Light, the 9th Merry book. And then in 2020, I sat down to try to write it. I started to write it. And then, of course, the world absolutely lost their mind. And I have never had a book so interrupted. But I think that every interruption to edit another book, to write another book, and then having to go back to it, the world just kept getting darker. And I think that helped make this book lighter than it would have been, and more hopeful than it would have been. Because if I had written it when I originally, in 2014, it would have been a much darker book. But something about 2020 made me go, no, we need hope. We need our better angels with us. Everyone needs to know that the angels are there, and they need that spark of hope. We need that. And Zaniel really is, he's just a good person. He tries to do his best. He wants to save everybody. He's an old-fashioned guy in so many ways, and in the best of ways. He's an old-fashioned romantic. And, people say a hopeless romantic. No, I hate that term. No, old-fashioned romantic. Sometimes it feels hopeless, but it isn't. It's hopeful against all odds.
Yeah. You brought up about him with the angels and hopefulness. And we have quite a few questions about religion and how it plays and faith. From Fallon, she asked, I found your writing very interesting on angels and demons. This is my first book I've ever read by you, and I am really enjoying it. I wonder what kind of research you did on faith. I am a practicing Wiccan and feel you've done a very good job with your representation. Can you expand on this?
Well, I too am a practicing witch. I am Wiccan and have been for over 20 years. So yes, it was, I try to represent us well on paper. What did I do for research? Oh, let's see. I anticipated this question. This was the first book I got, A Dictionary of Angels by Gustav Davidson. And if I'm doing research, I always start with something that says dictionary or encyclopedia in it, and that has a really, really amazing bibliography and cites all their sources. If there's no bibliography, it's not a good research book. Don't use it. I started with this one, and then I just kept going. All the people in the Bible from A to Z, Angel Magic by Silver Ravenwolf, The Keys of Solomon Make Magic, Angels A to Z. Let's see, the Encyclopedia of Angels. Hang on, I'm not done. Another Encyclopedia of Angels, a different one. And there are more books. This is just what I can grab within reach because I set them aside. I actually have a stack of books that is now higher than my waist.
Wow.
I researched the lives of the saints, which are fascinating. If you read a lot of the accounts of the lives of the saints, they would be schizophrenic now. They would be considered some kind of mental disorder, and you would put them you would put them on the right kind of mood altering drugs and you would send them on their way. But are they? Is that really what's wrong? Or really, how do you tell the people that are really, the brain chemistry has gone bad and you're hearing things that aren't there, and truly hearing the angels or hearing the voice of God? How would you tell the difference? And that was a fascinating question. That led me to create one of the characters in there, in this book, Jamie, because once I thought of that, I thought that is one of the most horrible things I can think of. That how would you tell the difference?
And how? I mean, you can't really.
No,
You have to have
you
that
really
faith
can't.
or belief, the faith and belief. So from Terry, say on the same line, she says you have quite a few religions represented in A Terrible Fall of Angels. I thought you did a great job with this. Was it hard to balance the religions and not make one religion a primary focus? And did you have any help with researching the religions? You kind of touched on that, but what about making it one primary over another?
I really don't believe in that. I don't. I was not raised Christian. And before someone asks, my grandmother's religion through my childhood was angry with God. She was not an agnostic. She was not an atheist. She sincerely believed. But at my mother's funeral, my mother died when I was 6. And at my mother's funeral, some well-meaning person said to my grandmother, I meant to comfort her, that it was God's will. And my grandmother decided if that was God's will, she wanted nothing to do with him. She had, for 30 years, she had a feud with God as if she could win. And that tells you a great deal about my grandmother. So I wasn't raised Christian, though strangely, she let me go to Bible school with friends and stuff. She drew the line when I wanted to become Episcopalian in college. But one of the biggest fights we ever had was me wanting to become Christian. And then 1/3 of my family is Jehovah's Witness, 1/3 of my family is Catholic, another third is agnostics and atheists. So I have been exposed to a great deal of many different kinds of religion growing up. And I saw at very close contact that, everybody thought they were right, but everybody thought they were right. And nobody seemed right. They all had their good points. They all had their bad points. And the arguments that I witnessed as a child, I think, left a lasting impression. And then in my 30s, I became Wiccan. And so, and I have friends of many faiths. So for me, I think, and I sincerely believe, that if you are a good person, a truly good person, every positive religion has some version of the golden rule. For Wiccans, it is do as thou wilt, so long as thou harm none. And that means yourself too. Every decision should go through that filter. Not only not harm anybody else, but don't harm yourself. And every positive religion has some version of that. So the angels are on the side of the good people, who's being the best person. They just want you to be the best and happiest person. Angels don't have a particular faith. There are angels in Christianity, Judaism, and Islam. They share the same angels, by the way. If you didn't know that, it's the same angels across the board there. And if you go back and do the research, there are winged messengers of God in almost every faith. As far back as you can find, there are winged messengers coming from deity to talk to people here on earth. It is, I think there's more alike. If we are good, decent people, we have more in common than we have not in common. And so it wasn't hard for me. And Zaniel seeing that the faiths work. One of the things, I do this in the Anita book too. It isn't just one faith or another whose holy item glows in the face of evil. It is those who believe, whatever they believe.
A good point. One of our guests would like to know, you said it in Los Angeles. Is this because Los Angeles is the city of angels, or is there another reason? This is from Jess.
Well, it is partially, it's because it's the city of angels. And it's actually, in this world, it's not Los Angeles, which is just the angels. It is literally the city of angels. And I cannot remember the Spanish for city right now. So originally it would have been the city of angels, but instead of Los Angeles, I always thought that Los Angeles being named the angels, and then the mountains around Los Angeles is the blood of Christ. That's what it translates to. And I've always been fascinated by that. I lived in Los Angeles just a little bit after college for 2.5 years, almost 3. And I moved from a town of 30,000 people was a big town for me. And then I moved to Los Angeles.
Wow.
It was a certain culture shock. Yes, indeed it was. So I'm familiar with the area, and I have visited there a lot on business over the years. So it seemed natural. I have to have gone to a place I write about. So I try to pick places I'm familiar with, or I have easy access to. If it's going to be a main setting, I can do one book if I've done one long visit. But if it's a setting for an entire series like this one, it has to be someplace I'm familiar with. So 1, I'm familiar, and 2, the names have always intrigued me.
The names of the cities, or names in general?
That Los Angeles and that the mountains around it also are named what it is. So it's the city of angels. And when I first put the book forward, my agent said, City of Angels, where would that be? Oh, she says Los Angeles, of course. Yeah. I went, well, yeah, it is.
Kelly would like to know, with the pandemic, has your writing process changed? And what is your writing process? What is a day in Laurell Hamilton's writing life?
Well, I get up in the morning and I try to get to my desk as soon as possible with as little interruption as possible. I will be honest, I'm playing around with where to put extra cardio. I've tried before writing, and that works as long as I don't do too much cardio. I can't run before. If I run and get all sweaty and then I have to shower and clean up, that I'm done. I will get no writing done that day. It disrupts, because whatever I do cannot disrupt the process of me getting to my desk early in the morning, and I have to get at least 2 to 4 pages. 2 to 4 pages. Even if I'm interrupted after that, if I get 2 to 4 pages in the morning, I am almost guaranteed to go back in the afternoon for another session, and I will end up getting my page count for the day. But if I skip my morning session, or I can't get there for some reason, if I haven't done those few pages in the morning, I do not write in the afternoon unless the book is really going well. Somewhere after the halfway point on a book, sometimes I describe it as trying to push a boulder up a snow-covered hill.
Oh, goodness.
And it keeps rolling down on you, and you keep fighting to push it up. But once you get to the hill and it overweights, then your boulder rolls down the hill of its own weight and catches momentum, and you're just chasing it. If I get to that point in the book, it almost doesn't matter. Any time I can get at my desk, anytime I'll write on the backs of envelopes. It's going well when I pick up any paper near me and I'm scribbling things as fast as I can. And everyone in the house knows not to throw anything away that they see writing on, because they don't know, did I miss it? Did I leave it behind? Do I need it later? But the morning is so important. I have to prime the pump. And if I miss that, then most of the time I'm done for the day. And
that's like a regular job too. I mean, isn't that true with any job?
Well, I can't speak to all jobs. I haven't done them all, but I find that if you have to treat it like a job, you have to treat this like a job. And ideally, I need 4 hours, 4-hour blocks, because I've timed this. The first 2 hours, I usually get nothing done. So I know this. So I go in, I make tea, I play with the cat, and even if I sit down as soon as I get in my office, the first 2 hours are usually not productive. I don't get anything done. I sit there and write, and just, it's awful. The last 2 hours are when I get it done. And people say, well, just go for 2 hours. I said, no, you don't understand. For whatever reason, my process needs those 2 hours of frustration to get those 2 hours at the end of productivity. It's just the way it works. I would prefer that 2 hours and I'm done. It's never worked that way. It's never going to work that way, and no matter how much I want it to. And if the book is going well and I'm close to deadline, I'm very lucky. I have been at my desk and seen 2 sunrises. And I can do that. But if I do that, it better be the end of the book, because it's like a marathon. you get done and then you need days of just going, oh my God, I can't believe I did that. It's like timing when you're going to do sprint to win the race. If you sprint too soon, you're not going to make the finish line. So that's the things that are most consistent. That, and I need some kind of hot caffeine, whether coffee or tea. Though I am making myself drink more water, and this is Mio, because some reason, I never remember being told to drink water as a child. It was Kool-Aid. That was what water was.
Sugar water, right?
So Mio is like grown-up Kool-Aid.
Yeah. Vicky Cooley, she says she agrees with what you're saying. I have to get into the zone. I also like 3 to 4 hour blocks. So not uncommon, evidently.
Well, good to know.
So Sarah Beth would like to know, your world building is fantastic. Do these just come to you, or do you work to find the worlds? Each is so different.
I work to world build. I showed you some of the research I do. I keep getting told to do more research for my fiction than most people do for their their nonfiction, which actually scared me when I was told that by enough editors, that I do more research for my fiction than most people do for their nonfiction. So first of all, I research and I do books. You can use online sources, but you can't use online sources as your only source, nor can you use one book as your only source. Don't do that. Case in point are the angels, depending on which book you're reading and which source they're using. And one of the reasons I like the Gustav Davidson one is it tells you that the different books have the angels in different places. And by that, I mean, nobody agrees on who's fallen and who's not. There's not one source and one list for who's fallen and who's not. You have some lists that have angels that are in the hierarchy of heaven, and others put them in the hierarchy of hell. And it's the same name. And so no gathering of religious leaders in the past has been able to agree on exactly which angel has been where. And so if you only read one book, you'd think you did know if they only used one source. So you want to do multiple sources so you make sure you get the best overall information. If you are world building anything that is fact, you need to make sure that it is absolutely as factual as you can. If it is a street people can walk, a city they can go to, a activity they can do themselves, you need to get it absolutely correct, because you're asking them to be fantastical things later. So the real world has to be as real as you can make it. You really have to be solid there, because if you mess up on the real stuff that they can check you on, they won't believe in your angels or your vampires or whatever. So what's real has to be very real, hyper real. And then you jump off from there. So no, the world building is always nuts and bolts. The idea for the world can come in a burst of inspiration, like the first line came as inspiration. But after that, it's work.
And do you find, this is just a follow-up on that same question, do you find it more difficult for the world building, or is it more difficult for character development for you?
World building.
Mm-hmm.
World building, because world building is more mechanical. It's this piece, that piece, put it together, does that work? And I'll world build to a certain point, but really it's the character I usually start with. I'm very character driven as a writer, incredibly so. And I will sit there and get the character right. I find that I'll have the general idea of the world, but it's only when I get the voice of the main character solid that the world really settles out. And just as I know the voice is right when it gets other characters coming together that have that really good chemistry, and the world suddenly just kind of shivers and is real around them. Yeah. It's that moment, that tipping point of the character and the voice and the world building and everything coming together. And one of the interesting things is that this is my 41st novel. So, and my 3rd series. So, well, I thought, I know how to do this, right? I've done this. I know how to do this. I was fairly arrogant coming into this. Oh, I've eaten a lot of humble pie on this one, because I forgot something, or I didn't know something about my process. With the first series, with the Anita Blake series, I'd written several short pieces because I didn't know I was going to write a book. So I did several short pieces, some publishable, some not publishable, and I explored my world with that. And so when I sat down to write the first novel, it was more cohesive. With Merry, I did not do short pieces. So the first Merry book was 70% garbage and 30% gold. And then you have to rewrite until you get it all gold, because I didn't do short pieces. What I now know is that if I don't do short pieces to explore the world, that my first draft is going to be a dumpster fire. It is just going to be all over the board. It is going to be just a disaster. Unlike my usual clean first drafts, I mean, fairly good. Oh my God. And so the first draft, I just went, I have never apologized to my editor before. I apologized. I said, I'm sorry, this is it. This is what I got. And I'll continue to work on it, but here you go. And she says, it showed me how your process and your mind works more than any other book you've shown me. My original editor that I had for so long retired. And so this is my new editor. We've only been together for a few books. And so we're still learning the ropes with each other. And this one's certainly an interesting process together. But I now, through the first draft, I have an overarching arc for the main spine plot of the overarching world. I know some of the highlights in future books and everything. And then you cut it here. Each book will have its own mystery, and that will be self-contained. But the overarching theme or plot or deep mystery, I don't know how to word it. I now know what it is. I now know where we're going, but I had to write that terrible first draft to get there. And I had to use that terrible first draft to explore the world. So now I know if I lose my mind completely and do yet another series in a few years, that if I don't do short stories, that the first draft is going to be terrible, more than normal for me.
We have, when you're saying that, there are many people saying they love your research.
Thank you.
It shows in all your work how much you do. There is someone that is asking, do you get emotionally involved with your character? For instance, when something bad happens to one of your characters, do you get upset? And that's coming from Tommy.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I should look this quote up. I keep making it. Wordsworth has a quote that said, some writers take a word out of their jacket pocket and others take it out of their guts. And I'm paraphrasing. I really need to look it up and put it where I can see it. I'm unfortunately a guts writer. I envy the writers that can just take it and they kill off some major character and they just show up at lunch and they're fine. If I do that, I am drained. I am done. I'm hysterical. And no, I bleed. I very much bleed with my characters. I joke. I only half joking. I'm a method writer, the way the other method actor. I really get into what I'm doing. I used to joke and say that if I ever got mugged while I was writing an Anita Blake book, I would get myself killed because she makes all these great one-liners and quips and quotes, but she's better prepared than I am. I've since taken, I'm not up to her level because she gets to train more than I do, but I am now almost on my 4th year of Filipino martial arts and other martial arts. I've started Brazilian jiu-jitsu because my ground game wasn't good enough, I didn't think. And I have weapons training and stuff in other ways. So I don't think I'll get myself killed, but I also now know enough not to say something stupid. So, it evens out.
Along that same line, from Vanessa, she'd like to know, have you ever had to kill off or get rid of a character you were attached to? I am writing now and one of my characters died and I cannot seem to move on. Should I go back and revisit this? I was writing and everything was moving forward and bam, he's gone. Any advice?
I'm going to advise you to open up a second file. Make a duplicate of your book, a complete duplicate of your book. Make another file of your book. Name it something else so that you will keep track of which is which. Like if whatever your name is, if the title of the book is The Black Cauldron, for lack of one, say Black Cauldron 2, or Black Cauldron redo something, so that you will not confuse the two things and end up writing in the wrong one. And then pick one of the copies and then undo the death. Go back in one of the copies and don't kill him. Don't kill the character. And then if the book flows from there, then yes, you should keep him alive. If that doesn't fix what's wrong with the book, then it may be that you're just emotionally overwrought and you need to give yourself a little break. You need to give yourself a little mourning time.
Okay. Like you have. You said you have mourning time at times. So,
yes.
Yeah. Let's see. This is from Stephen and Jennifer, and we read to each other out loud from your books and love every bit of them. Do any of the characters from Anita Blake or Merry Gentry series make an appearance in your new novel?
No.
No. There's quite a few of these type of questions. They're asking, do you ever flow over? My thought would be they're different worlds, so they wouldn't flow over. Am I correct in that?
They are different worlds. Mary and Anita could have been the same world, but I had written about fairies and the Fey in book 5 of Anita, and when I did my further research, I wanted to change enough that it was just easier to make it another world. But Zaniel's world has to be a different world. It could not coexist with Anita and Mary. There's just too much that I'm changing. But no, I don't have a problem with that. Jean-Claude popped in my head when I was first writing Mary, because at that time we were still behaving ourselves and not being spicy in the Anita series. And when I was first writing the first Kiss of Shadows for Merry Gentry, he peered over my shoulder and said, "You had this and did not offer me any." Oh. And it was like, "I'm sorry, I didn't think about it." And but other than that, I've never had another character. And he didn't try to be on the page. He just looked over my shoulder and went, "Really? Really?" But in a much more suave and debonair way.
So from Sierra, she says, "I finished the book last night. I'm not sure if I missed something or if it will come out in your next book, if there's going to be a next book. But who is in charge of the College of Angels? And does it have a purpose that I am not seeing?" Without getting any spoilers out.
You're not missing anything in the book. I didn't specify.
Okay.
And you will learn in other books. Yes, it's the first book in a series, so there will be many more books.
And there is several people asking how many more books are going to be in the series, and several are also asking about Anita and Mary. What's coming up with any of them? Continuation of the series, they're hoping.
Well, for Zaniel, it's between 6 and 13 books. And why I'm so vague is I've learned the hard way that I don't know. Let me write a couple of more books and I'll have a better idea of how long the series is going to be. I mean, my original idea was Anita would be 13 books, and now I am currently, to answer part of the other part of the question, I am currently writing the 29th Anita Blake novel.
Wow,
you will have amazing. That. You will have that next summer. We'll have that next summer, and so I thought that was 13. Yeah, I thought that'd be great, right? And I'm writing book 29, so that's amazing to me. And I am making notes for the 10th Merry Gentry book. I am probably, the idea is next summer you would get Anita. If the muses and angels hold hands and sing around me, you might get a winter Zaniel book, but it's unlikely. It's unlikely. My editor's probably hearing this going, no, we have to edit it really, really fast. Don't do it. She's a good sport, but I am very fast for a writer in traditional publishing. And so Mary after that. It might be the other way around, but because the first book, I like to get the second book in a series, the first first few books in a series out as quickly as possible. It will probably be next. But when I finish this Anita book, I'll give myself a few days and see. I have started trying to write a few short stories in between books, or let myself make notes on other things, or go someplace that refreshes and renews. And I have to say that one of the things that's really messing with my process right now is I haven't been able to go where I normally go to rest myself between books. I haven't been able to see the ocean and travel like I normally do. And I did not realize how much a part of my recuperation stage it was to go to the ocean. And there are also some friends that I haven't been able to see. And, just certain things you don't realize if it's part of your process or if it's just part of your life, because it's not always the same. Everything feeds into the writing, but the actual writing process, it's been very interesting figuring out how many things outside my office are actually part of my process, at least part of the recovery after a book. And going to the ocean, going to some large body of water. I don't know, the Great Lakes might be big enough, but they're an inland sea. They just aren't salty. I remember seeing them for the first time in college, and I remember thinking to myself, this is an inland sea. Why would anybody say lake? You can't see the other side. This is a sea.
Right.
This is an ocean.
The Great Lakes. That's right. Laura just asked us also what you do for relax after a book has been published. So obviously go to the ocean. Is there anything else you do?
I find that doing martial arts and doing physical exercise is daily helps with the stress level, but that's not just for writing, that's for anything. But apparently going to the ocean is much more important to me even than I thought. I thought I liked the ocean, but I didn't realize that it was part of what recoups me and gets me going again. I was going great guns at the beginning of everything in 2020. I was really still going, but as things have dragged on, I think all of us are getting tired. I know that, but I did not know that not being able to travel was going to be as hard as it is. I don't know. I don't know. Maybe that's a sign I need to move to live by the ocean. I don't know.
And Charles just chimed in that wants to know how much recovery time do you need between the books?
It depends. When I was doing Merry and Anita and doing 2 big books a year, and when I say big books, I mean huge books. And I was touring. I would tour within every 3 to 6 months for weeks at a time around the country, and I was doing them back to back with no recovery time, and I kind of burned myself out. I've now learned that even if I wake up the next day and I am like, let's go, don't do it. Don't do it. You can write the beginning of the next book and put it away in a folder if the muse moves you, but I must get out of my office. I must go do something else. I must see people I haven't seen, or go out in nature and see different scenery instead of, no matter how beautiful your office space is, and I am very blessed to be able to have created a room around me like this, but no matter how beautiful it is, you need to see something else if possible. For me, though, I have visited family. Family had we had as part of our polycule extended family. They had babies. They had little ones, and so we got to see them. And but I didn't see the ocean. So I'm now learning that it's not just about travel. It's not just about seeing. It is literally seeing certain landscapes. So I know the mountains also refresh me. So for me, it's not one place. For a while there, we had a place in Colorado in the mountains. I ended up having elevation sickness so severe that we had to get rid of it. We had to get rid of this beautiful place we had. And I couldn't adapt, and some people can't. But you don't know. How do you know you can't until you try?
Right. Absolutely.
So I'm good. I was good below 7,000 feet, but the place we bought was closer to 10, and I couldn't be there all the time. Yeah. So mountains, ocean, and then certain friends and everything, but haven't been able to do that. So yeah. I feel like my fuel's being depleted.
Well, hopefully soon it will all come back together.
Hopefully.
Yeah. Let's talk a little bit, without giving spoilers about Zaniel's. We're getting several questions on him as well. Melissa has asked, what prompted making Zaniel older with more romantic family relationships than you did with Anita or Mary in the start of the series? And Danielle actually, not Danielle, I'm sorry. Jennifer said she just started the book last night and very excited and already really love Zaniel. I need to know where he's going. Is he going to have a love storyline?
Actually, Zaniel is only 32. Isn't he only 32? I debated back and forth on whether he left the College of Angels at 19, 20, or 21, and that depended because he's out. So there was like a few years that I kept playing with, and now I can't remember what I decided. But I think he's 30. I think he's 32 or 33, and Mary is 33 at the beginning of the books. So actually, he's ballparking. Anita was 24 when we started at hers, but she's now in, due to the fact that time does not pass there, she's in her early 30s now as well. Why did I make him older? Because he chose to be married and have a 3-year-old son. And I find having an adult daughter myself, I would not have been a good parent in my 20s. And those of you who could do it well in your 20s, rock on. For me, I needed to be in my 30s to really have myself together enough to raise another little human being. And so once he decided that he was going to have a child, I thought, okay, well, then we got to move you up a decade. So that was that. And as far as Zaniel is concerned, he does have a romantic storyline. He is separated from his wife at the beginning of the book, and he is heartbroken about it. She is not comfortable being married to a police officer. That's what she is, and she wanted the separation. They came to almost the point of signing papers, and then both decided they wanted to try couples counseling and try one more time. His goal is to be back home with his wife and his son. That's what Zaniel wants. He is an old-fashioned romantic, and he really thought that this would be the person he would build his life with forever. And I don't know what's going to happen. If these were friends, I would have to keep my mouth shut because I think they're going to get back together, but I really dislike his wife. I disliked his wife the whole book. It's like you deserve better. Zaniel's like one of those friends that you want to fix up with nicer people.
Oh, wow.
but you can't say that. I've learned the hard way in real life, friends that aren't getting along, if you trash who they love and then they get back together, you're the person who said the bad things. Even if they said it first, they never forget you agreed. And so you have to wait till the divorce is final before you can say what you really think. I hope that she is kinder to him next book. It was really hard. It was really, really hard to write those scenes and not have him love her, have her love him the way she loves him. It was hard to write the scenes because you're being unfair. It was so unfair.
Aww.
But she is very strong. She's a very strong character. She came on this way. It was like, okay, and he loves her. I'm not married to her. He's married to her. So, okay.
The Dory Ann Morris Book Club would like to know, do you have a particular scene, event, or character in your new book that you're excited for the readers to read or discover?
Well, kind of the whole book, but there's a lot of favorite scenes. I love the demon fight at the beginning. I mean, that was fun. It was fun to be able to do. And then, of course, it became heartbreaking. So it's fun and it's heartbreaking.
Yeah.
And I thought it was interesting to actually have him go to couples counseling and not just skip over it. I thought that was interesting and
very realistic. I thought that was very realistic.
Well, you can thank you can thank the past experience for that being very realistic. I think if you've reached a certain age and you've had at least one divorce, that you've learned a lot, and hopefully you've learned more and better. So showing that on paper, It also really was the point of having his character and her character really were solid. I debated on whether to do the scene at all, and then once they got in the scene together, I just went, no, this is their scene. This is where they really come together as a couple and who they are. I almost hate to give away, but he meets one of his best friends that he's estranged to, and I don't want to give away why, and that broke my heart. It broke my heart and it made me happy. It broke my heart and made me happy. And that really is a lot of this book. It makes me so happy. Something good happens for Zaniel and then it's sad. And there's so many times that so many people in his life have some tragedy has happened and estranged them or strained the relationship, or he's just lost them. Mm-hmm. And he's just such a good person. And if what people were asking, will there be other romance? Well, his wife wants them to date other people while they're separated, and he hasn't yet. He's afraid she'll use it against him, and also he doesn't want to date anybody else. He's actually really bothered that after 6 months being alone, he's attracted to other women. He's really bothered by that, and it's making him. He's basically going. He needs back. He needs back with his wife. He's starting to get so lonely that for him. For the one thing his wife, I don't think she understands, and that is that for Zaniel, where his body goes, so does his heart. He's not a person who sleeps casually, who has sex casually. So I hope that she doesn't encourage him to date and then regret it later. I've seen that happen. And but I know more about what's going on, but I don't want to spoil it, so I have to stop there.
Yeah. There's a couple people asking about the totems. Samantha says, I'm hoping you can expand the system of totems, animal and celestial, guides, guardian angels, and co-walkers. Also, what is Harm None in the series?
Harm None, the bookstore?
That's,
Harm None is animal, celestials, and co-workers. I'm not seeing the second part of the question. Harm None is a metaphysical store, and it's named Harm None because of the Wiccan Rede, which is do as thou wilt so long as thou harm none. And it's a metaphysical bookstore with the owners being Wiccan, and so they named it Harm None. And but the owner of the bookstore, Bast, is very much harm none but take no shit, and because the harm none includes yourself. Nobody gets to hurt you either. Right. And Harm None is based on quite a few of my favorite metaphysical stores, especially and that I've been through over the years. And then the Cozy Cauldron, which is just down the way, is a place I wish existed. It's that coffee and tea shop next to a metaphysical store. You know, the only thing that would make, you know, I debated on making it a bookstore and tea store. We really need to, but I know that Harm None has a great metaphysical collection. I don't know if as the series goes on, we may have to move a really good bookstore, not just metaphysical, but a real bookstore next door. You have jewelry, you have a great coffee tea shop, and you have a good metaphysical store. You put in a good general bookstore, I would be a happy camper.
Yeah, I would be too. Danielle would like to know, and we've gotten several questions on this. We would love you to come in person. Are you planning on any personal tours? We have people asking if you're going to come to Maryland anytime. We'd always love to have you. Pamela asked if you were ever going to visit Maryland. We'd love to have you.
We visited Maryland once or twice, but it's not a common stop, I have to admit. We are not going to do any touring this year. And one of the reasons I made the decision not to with the situation that's happening is that over the years, we've had fans, and I love my fans, they're great, but sometimes they're a little overzealous. And we have had fans come straight from surgery, major surgery. And instead of the family taking them home, they sit in the car and they won't get out. We had a woman come with major abdominal surgery. They'd given her one of those little pillows they give you to hold against the wound, and she made them take her to a signing I had in Colorado Springs.
Oh my goodness.
And we noticed her first because she was bending over in line. She was like bending over, and my husband went down to check on her, and her friends ratted her out and said she wouldn't let us take her home. She stood so, and she wouldn't cut line. Everybody that when they found out she'd had surgery, they says, "Oh no, go in line." She wouldn't cut line. Finally, the manager got her a wheelie chair from his office so she could at least sit down. So she's just one example of people that have come when they've had major injuries or major something that would weaken their immune system. And I don't want people to have to make that choice. I don't want to tempt them to come where their immune systems are low or there's something wrong, and then them catch the variant or something and get very, very ill. I just don't want to take that chance and make people have to double think that. So we'll see you next year. We'll see you guys next year. Yeah. But I am not going to see the people that have gone above and beyond to see me in person in past years. I just don't want them to have to choose right now.
Well, hopefully in a year, this will all be behind us and we can see you in person again.
Yes. And in a year, things will be better. We will send that, one of the things I do in the book, as I talk about spirit and flesh, they impact each other. Well, I do believe that. We are co-creators of our reality. So as we send, the more negative we send out, the more negative things that happen. And it's not entirely because we now know every bad thing seconds after it happens. I really do believe that the energy we send out does impact things. Think about how negative we've all been on the internet for ages. Maybe if we just try to send out more positive, if enough of us are positive, maybe we can have the opposite effect and actually change things for the better. I really do believe that.
I believe that too. Absolutely. Positivity grows positivity. Absolutely.
It does. It really does. It just as negativity grows. But we are programmed from years of evolution to believe the negative above the positive. They've actually proven it scientifically that it takes between, is it 3 to 10 or 5 to 10 positives to offset one negative, depending on where you are on the scale, how negative your base personality is. So if one bad thing happens, it takes 3 to 5 or more good things to offset that one thing. No wonder it's hard to ignore anything negative.
Right.
But it's worth the try. And, if we all get more positive and send out the energy, the worst that's going to happen is we're all happier.
Right. That's not a good thing, right? Absolutely.
That's not a bad thing.
I'm going to try to get through a few more here. We're getting close on time. Kiki B asks, if you could live in any of your worlds for one day, which one would you choose and why?
I would have to put more parameters on it, but I don't know. I'd be really torn between Anita's world and Zaniel's world right now. And not Mary's, because Mary's still mad at me about the last book. I don't think I'd want to see her in person right now. I don't know. If I could have extra time to get in shape and practice with more weaponry, I'd choose Anita's. But I don't know. It would depend on what was happening and who was there. Zaniel's world would be easier to navigate safely. But but I don't know.
Okay, that's fair. Pamela would like to know, do you enjoy doing full books more than your short stories?
Oh, yes.
Okay.
Most writers are either at heart short story writers or novelists. You can do both, but and sadly, if you're a short story writer, it's even harder to make a living as a writer than it is as a novelist for most people. So you hope you're a novelist, but I am. I'm not only a novelist, I'm a serial. I love series. I'm a series writer. So not only am I a novelist, but I'm a series novelist. I do short stories, but short stories are actually short stories have to be inspired more for me, because the idea has to be small enough to be able to say in a much smaller package.
You are getting so much love here. Anita
Thank
has
you.
gotten so many people through some hard times.
Thank you.
New readers as well as old readers. They all are just loving you to death. One is that I can't find it here, but someone did ask, have you ever read the entire Anita Blake series in order?
Actually, strangely enough, during lockdown, at the beginning of lockdown, I had never read. If I'm writing a book, I will go back and read the books. If it's a character that hasn't been on stage in a while, I'll go back and read the books that they have been in. But I had never read the books in order all the way through before, because I'm usually too busy writing the next book. Over lockdown, I did. I read Nita beginning to end in order. I read Merry beginning to end in order. And I made copious notes throughout. And some things I'd forgotten, some things I hadn't forgotten, some things I just went, huh. And it was very interesting reading it in order myself. And I will be talking about it or blogging about some of the insights I had while I was doing it, insights into the process. Okay, the fact that Anita and Micah still don't realize that Nathaniel is bisexual in Blood Noir, and I, it's still late in the game, and they're just going, and I'm just going, really, and Nathaniel's just going, okay, and it's funny because I think that part of the process of not realizing some of the stuff that seems so obvious when you go back and reread it, the fact that Richard and Anita were having problems early on, and there were red flags I didn't see, and some characters you sit there and go, oh yeah, they were doomed. It just right there, or yeah, he was good from the beginning, or she worked as a character, or whatever, and I know which ones came out of nowhere, and I know which ones I worked the hardest on, and you really can't tell the difference. As a reader, you're going, I worked really hard on that scene, and it reads just like the one that I wrote in one hour, which is fascinating, even fascinating to watch my own process go through. And so I did for the first time, and it was, I don't know, I learned a lot of different things about. It was very interesting, and I knew part of what was going on in my life when I wrote certain things, and I'm going, no, that's just fascinating. So yeah.
Well, we are excited to have the newest series out. The first book, A Terrible Fall of Angels by Laurell Hamilton. Again, if you want a copy of this, we have signed book placed by Laurell, was generous enough to send us some. We have it at A Likely Story. It's down there at the bottom of the screen, or you could go to our website. Thank you, Laurell. This has been so much fun. You have so much love here. I hope you get a chance to go and read all this love. I can't even get to it all.
Thank you very much.
And blogging, there's a lot of, just pure love for all of your characters, all of your books. So thank you so much.
Thank you very much for having me.
And I hope at some point post-pandemic, you're able to come to Maryland and visit us in person.
I am looking forward to seeing you guys and seeing the store in person and seeing everybody that was here tonight in person. Next year, guys, we will all be in a better space and hale and hearty when we see each other.
Absolutely. So thank you and good night, everybody.
You're welcome. Thank you.